everyone, it's Mostly Casual Commander. I'm BK. Some news for you. We just started Discord, so check us out. Link in the description. Kovacs brought his Torwaki, the younger deck, for another attempt at pinging his opponents to death. Busterkins is playing Soul of Windgrace, a Jund Color Lands Matter deck, so he has a lot of lands and stuff that cares about lands up and in there. Ivy, Gleeful Spell Thief, is making a return, piloted by J-Man, who's trying to copy all sorts of targeted spells. And I'm playing Braids, Arisen Nightmare, trying to paper cut my opponents to death and draw a bunch of cards, which is just so good. Let's jump into the game.
Thanks, Kovacs.
Got you.
You're a good friend, buddy.
I try.
Hashtag Team Pumpkin. I'm drinking pumpkin coffee right now. Kovacs plays a Smoldering Marsh as his land and passes over to Busterkins, who plays a Verdant Catacombs. He says go over to J-Man, who draws and plays a Breeding Pool. He keeps that bad boy tapped and passes the turn over to me. I have a Swamp. And then I use it to play an Expedition map, which allows me to find probably more swamps in my mono black deck. Or maybe my Cabal Coffers, that'd be good. Kovacs plays a Mountain, and then he casts Satyr Fire Dancer. So if he would, let's say, shock an opponent, he could then shock their creature. That's cool. On his end step, Busterkins cracks Verdant Catacombs, finding his own Smoldering Marsh, and then onto his turn.
Hey, Kovacs, can you hand me my Edgar Markov deck? I'm just going to put...
Yeah, so you get...
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, that's a new format we're trying out. Yeah, it's just
It's called
do what you want.
Do what you want. Yeah.
I'll see myself out. Busterkins plays Boseiju, who endures, as a land. Then he casts Farseek, allowing him to go find another land and put it onto the battlefield tapped. In this case, it's an Overgrown Tomb, a good choice. Out of J-Man's turn, he plays Bark Channel Pathway, with Bark Channel Pathway face up. Then he casts his commander, Ivy, Gleeful Spell Thief, getting ready to copy some stuff. I play another Swamp and cast Bitter Blossom. I'm going to start making some fairies on my upkeep at the cost of some life. Over to Kovacs' turn, he plays another Mountain, and with that out, he casts Manalith. It's a fine mana rock. And then into the red zone with Satyr Fire Dancer at me, dropping me to 39. Rude. Over to Busterkins, he plays a Lotus Cobra, which will start getting him some floating mana when he drops lands. He plays a Golgari Rot Farm, bouncing Boseiju back to his hand and getting a floating mana, but having nothing to do with it. Island is dropped on J-Man's turn, then he casts Scoot Swarm, another landfall thing that'll make insects or other Scoot Swarms. On my upkeep, Bitter Blossom gives me a fairy.
I put in a Layla, Artful Provocateur out on
Oh, wow. Dang.
Wrong. No, it's pretty good. It's legit.
Alright, I promise I'm done with that stupid joke. I get a 1/1 black fairy rogue, and another swamp hits my board. I cast my commander, Braids, Arisen Nightmare. I smack my fairy around a little bit. Then, when I move into my end step, I'll sacrifice my fairy, and give my opponents a choice of sacking a creature of theirs, or losing 2 life and letting me draw a card. And they all opt to take the life and give me card draws, which is just chef's kiss. Am I right? I move to discard, putting Drowned Yard Temple into my bin. Tormenting Voice is cast on Kovacs' turn. That'll make him discard, and with that he'll draw 2 more cards, and he'll play a Temple of the False God as his land for turn. Unfortunately, it's not online yet. Over to Busterkins, he plays Mountain Valley, which will trigger his Lotus Cobra, netting him a floating mana, which he uses to cast Remunap Excavator, allowing him to play lands from his bin. J-Man plays a Command Beacon as his land for turn, which triggers Scoot Swarm, which gives him an adorable 1/1 green insect creature token. He then casts Ether Tunnel on his Scoot Swarm, which of course triggers Ivy, getting him a copy of Ether Tunnel on Ivy. He then decides to go to combat at me for some unknown reason. I'm innocent. Then over to me, Bitter Blossom triggers on my upkeep, dropping me down 1, getting me a fairy. I drop a Swamp drop, and then I decide to go to combat, swiftly repaying J-Man with sweet, sweet vengeance, dropping him down to 35. Then I cast the Meat Hook Massacre, where X equals 2. Not even a big deal, would just basically kill everything but Braids. But J-Man's like, nah, fierce guardianship, dude.
Nerd. Sadness.
Then onto my end step, Braids triggers. I decide to sack my Expedition map. Probably the wrong answer, but I wanted a guaranteed card draw because none of them have artifacts they'd be willing to sack. I move to discard, pitching a few cards to my bin, and onto Kovacs' turn, he casts Demon's Due. So he loses his life, scries 2, and decides that those are the cards he wants to draw. He follows that up by dropping a Mountain as his land, which also turns on Temple of the False God. Then he casts Commander Sphere, another mana rock, and or card draw. On to Busterkins' turn, he starts by cracking Mountain Valley, finding his Stomping Ground, entering the battlefield untapped at the cost of 2 life. He then plays Field of Ruin, triggering Lotus Cobra a second time into Avenger of Zendikar. This dude loves plants. He makes 5/0/1s. I imagine they're gonna get thick swole. Onto J-Man's turn, he moves right into combat at Busterkins, which makes sense. Busterkins gobbles up his insect token with Ramunap, but then J-Man plays in Island, getting another one. He casts Cerulean Wisps on Scoot Swarm, which will also make a copy targeting Ivy, so he'll get a couple of card draws, as well as untap those creatures. He then plays Shielding Plaques, targeting Scoot Swarm, therefore targeting Ivy. He gets Hexproof on both of them and draws more cards.
Everything seems fine.
Does it though? At least they're small unblockable things instead of big unblockable things, right? On my upkeep, I get another fairy. I draw for turn, and because I'm a distinguished gentleman, I play Strip Mine as my land for turn, and I immediately activate it to blow up J-Man's land, trying to slow him down from getting more Scoot Swarms. I cast Ichor Wellspring, getting me a card draw, and when it dies, I get a card draw. I bring out Zulaport Cutthroat, and I'm aiming to paper cut my opponents a little bit more. I move into combat with Braids at Kovacs, and he takes 3 commander damage. On my end step, I sacrifice Ichor Wellspring, everybody takes 2, and I get to draw 3 more cards, plus 1 more for when Ichor Wellspring went to my bin. I'll then move to discard and pass the turn over to Kovacs, who plays a Swamp as his land. Then he'll cast his commander, Torwaki the Younger. So now he will amplify all of his non-combat damage and cause life-linking damage when he casts instants or sorceries. Oh, and then he'll start pinging us with Gutter Snipe too. This is going really well. He casts Forked Bolt targeting me and Busterkins, triggering Gutter Snipe, Tor, as well as Fire Dancer with replacement effect thanks to Tor. He'll then gain 2 life because Tor has lifelink and is dealing damage. Then he has Satyr Fire Dancer target Lotus Cobra as well as Zulaport Cutthroat, and I'm like, what? What's happening at this point? Everybody's taken a bunch of life. Then Zulaport will trigger when it dies, and I hit Kovacs with it. On Busterkin's turn, he plays a Verdant Catacombs, triggering Avenger, getting a +1/+1 counter on his plants. He'll go and find a basic forest with that. When it ETBs, again triggering Avenger, cleans up his board state, casts Soul of Windgrace. When that ETBs, he'll get Verdant Catacombs back out onto the battlefield, again triggering Avenger. He goes into combat with a couple of those plants at J-Man and Kovacs. J-Man chumps, and Kovacs drops to 27. On J-Man's turn, he plays a forest, which triggers Scoot Swarm, and he suspiciously passes the turn. On my upkeep, I get another fairy. I draw for turn, and then I drop another swamp as my land. Then I'll cast Phyrexian Reclamation, allowing me to grab a creature from my graveyard and put it back into my hand. Following that, I cast Black Market Connections, which will allow me to have some shenanigans on my pre-combat main phase. I move into combat, swinging at Busterkins, dropping him to 17. On my end step, Braids will trigger, I'll sack a creature, everybody will take 2 life, and I'll draw 3 more cards. I'll then have to move to discard, and over to Kovacs' turn, he casts Ardent Elementalist, which allows him to grab an instant or sorcery from his bin back to his hand. In this case, it's Tormenting Voice. He'll cast that, discarding a card, triggering Gutter Snipe as well as Tor. In response, Busterkins activates Soul of Windgrace, discarding a land and getting some life. Then Kovacs resolves his non-combat damage, dropping everybody down a few pegs and gaining a little bit of life. But wait, he's not done yet. He'll cast Mutiny, again triggering Gutter Snipe as well as Tor with a replacement effect. So Gutter Snipe will deal 3 points of damage to each one of his opponents. Then he'll resolve Tor on Busterkins, gaining a couple points of life. Then with Mutiny, he'll have Avenger fight Soul of Windgrace. Busterkins activates Soul of Windgrace 1 more time before that happens, discarding a land card and drawing a card. Soul of Windgrace goes to the command zone, and Kovacs casts Gifted Etherborn as a follow-up play. Not bad, Kovacs. That was a pretty impressive turn with Tor out.
I guess I just gotta try to kill Kovacs.
Kovacs is certainly a big threat right now. I'm not at all.
I mean, you are too.
No. Busterkins will activate Verdant Catacombs, taking 1 point of life, finding a snow-covered swamp onto his battlefield, triggering Avenger, and getting 1 more +1/+1 counter. He'll then replay Verdant Catacombs from his bin, thanks to Ramunap Excavator, and then he'll do it 1 more time, grabbing a Woodland Chasm, getting another +1/+1 counter. He'll replay Soul of Windgrace, and when that ETBs, he could return any land from any graveyard onto the battlefield, so he'll take my Strip Mine, and that will trigger Avenger of Zendikar as well, getting yet another +1/+1 counter. He moves to combat at Kovacs, craving violence. He swings all of his plant tokens at him. Kovacs will trade Gifted Etherborn for 1, chump block with 2 others, and drop down to 17. I mean, I think he did the right thing there, Busterkins. Onto J-Man's turn, he'll draw and play Rejuvenating Springs as his land. This will trigger Scoot Swarm, getting him another Scoot Swarm. Etsy token. He fancy cultivates, and while he looks for his lands, I kick tripods.
Don't worry, he kicked it earlier, and because you weren't here yet, so he kicked it for you.
And I did say, oops, I pulled an Ania.
You literally, yeah. Literally?
He did say that.
No lie.
Witness.
Oh, what'd you do? Kick the tripod?
I did. How did you know?
Oh, just by context boost.
J-Man plays a forest, and this triggers both of his Scoot Swarms, getting him 2 more Scoot Swarms. That's 4. On to my turn, I get a fairy on my upkeep, I draw, and then Black Market Connection triggers. I'll pay 1 life for a treasure, and 2 more life to draw a card. Swamp Drop on my turn, and then I cast Bastion of Remembrance. This will give me a 1/1 human soldier creature token. Then I cast Blood Artist, which is great. This is exactly what I want to be doing. Then I go to combat.
Buster Kins.
Why? I'm at 8.
I'm not even a threat. You are still a very big threat.
I mean, literally everybody's a threat. Might as well try to kill you, am I right? On my end step, I trigger Braids, sacking a creature, which drains everybody thanks to Bastion as well as Blood Artist. Then J-Man and Busterkins decide to sack a creature of their own, again triggering Blood Artist. And Kovacs takes 2 life and allows me to draw a card. On to Kovacs' turn, he floats a mana with Commander Sphere and then sacks it to draw a card. Then he'll cast Down. He targets Avenger with it, triggering Gutter Snipe as well as Tor. In response, Busterkins will activate Soul of Windgrace to gain a little bit of life again. Then the damage is dealt by Gutter Snipe, as well as Tor hitting me, gaining Kovacs some more life. Blood Artist will trigger when Avenger dies. Torment of Hailfire, where X equals 5, is then cast, again triggering Gutter Snipe, as well as Tor. All that damage is resolved. He gains 2 points of life off of pinging me again with Tor. And then there's 5 Torment triggers. Busterkins will sack Soul of Windgrace and discard 4 cards. J-Man will discard 5 cards. I'll discard 3 cards and sack 2 creatures. Now, I accidentally treated Bastion of Remembrance as if though it was Blood Artist here, which in theory would have actually just killed Busterkins, but that's okay because he dies to combat damage from Kovacs anyway. So a little slip up there, but no big deal. Kovacs' Gutter Snipe just wouldn't be tapped. Sorry about that. J-Man drops Boseiju Huandoors, giving him a bunch more Scoot Swarms. Then he casts Eldrazi Conscription on his original Scoot Swarm, again triggering Ivy, getting Ivy a copy of Eldrazi Conscription.
Uh-oh, Kovacs. I think we're dead.
I don't know.
Yeah, so J-Man can't actually attack me because Annihilator would have me sack creatures and then I would just kill him before combat damage. He could have done nothing and then died to me anyway next turn, so he decides to attack Kovacs. Killing him, I drained him 2 more. On my upkeep, I get another fairy. I'll just move right into end step. Braids will trigger. I'll sacrifice one of my fairies, triggering Blood Artist and Bastion. This will drain J-Man to death. And I guess that makes me the winner. Yay.
Did Brandon win?
I did. He did.
Okay.
Proud of you.
Yeah, Jeremiah felt bad for him, so he let him win.
That was a good game, though. It was
a good game.
pretty evenly matched.
I would like to think so too, Busterkins. Well, we hope you guys enjoyed the game. Sorry for that one minor slip up. I hope that we've been improving as time has gone on. Let us know what you thought about the game in the comments. Make sure you check out our brand new Discord. And as always, thank you for watching.